in the last 3 years than I did compliments over that. It was a significant amount more to fix. So.
Wow, building looks better, especially with the fixed up, whatever
Yeah.
the peak is.
I mean, we're gonna look at a new, actually new sign.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 5th Town Council meeting, and we will start, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll start with public forum, and seeing as how there is no one from the public, I'm going to go ahead and close public forum at 7:02. And the next thing that we have on the agenda is the public hearing for ordinance number 2, 2018-2019, amending chapter 26, permitting the sale of alcoholic liquor or beverages on town-owned sidewalks. And seeing as how there's, again, no one from the public, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:02. So the next item on our agenda is for the town council to consider acceptance of minutes, and we have our May 15th, 2019 non-public meeting minutes, so I take a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes from May 15th, 2019.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
Question.
You
Is
have
it?
to go into non-public session if it's a question on non-public minutes.
Okay.
Is that a Scribner's or is it substantive?
I'm not sure. Probably Scrivener's.
Okay, if it's Scribner's, then we can just fix it. If it's substantive, then we cannot. Which means you're gonna have to wait till after the meeting, call a non-public session.
I don't know the answer. I'm sorry, Steve.
It's not a big.
It'd be great right now.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
But I had a question about.
You have to go into non-public then.
Oh my goodness.
We can do. I mean, it's not the end of the world.
Okay, I think it's going to be at the end, right?
You have to go
All
into
right,
non.
I'll think about it. see how long this goes. I think it's okay.
So then, do we just want to put that on hold?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
And before we go any further, I just want to we need to seal the minutes from our non-public meeting. So I would go ahead and accept a motion to seal the minutes from the non-public meeting pursuant to RSA 91A:3 Roman numeral 2A.
I'll make a motion to seal the minutes from the non-public meeting pursuant to RSA 91-A:32.
Second.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And I just want to comment that Counselor Burns is participating remotely. We had met prior in non-public, so I forgot to mention that when we started. Do we need to go through the questions again?
No.
Okay.
You're right. Sorry, on the record.
Great. So the next item is our regular meeting minutes from May 15th. So I'd take a motion to accept those.
I just had a quick correction. On page.
Oh, first we have to do the
You get-
motion.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from May 15th, 2019.
Second.
No.
Oh, just on page 3, was seconded by Counselor Kuiper. I don't think it was me.
What's the line number?
Oh, sorry, 123. I think.
It was more than likely me.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Changes? No.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And now the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Come on out. First item is just to remind the council that there is a special town council meeting for next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Down in the auditorium for goal-setting session with Rick Alpers from Primex. The next item is that on the agenda tonight for first reading is a 5-year lease with New Singular Wireless. This is not to be confused with Singular Wireless, to locate a cell tower at the fire station. It will be a monopole. For those familiar, it's literally just a pole. We've already done site tests, and the planning board did approve the site plan. If approved, we'll receive an estimated $18,000 annually for the initial carrier, plus $400 a month for any additional carriers on the site. In addition, we'd receive tax dollars for any facilities built on that land, as that's taxable. The town attorney has reviewed the agreement, and the planning board has approved the plans, and we will have the town attorney at the next meeting in case there's any legal questions with the lease. As I previously mentioned, we received a 79E application for the Selectwood building. The community development director and I reviewed it, and it does comply with the town policies. The way 79E application works is that if it's determined the project is a public benefit and the proposed rehabilitation is substantial, that the town council can waive any tax increases attributed to the rehabilitation of the project up to 5 years. We have a previously adopted policy in line for 3 years if the project equals 50% or more of the current assessed value, and according to the application that was previously used. And the council could add on additional 2 years if it creates housing units, 4 more years if the housing units are affordable, and 4 more if the structure is historically important. We felt that it does comply, and developer requested 5 years. The current assessed value is $316,800. The rehabilitation cost estimated by the developer is $1.69 million. If this were granted, the taxes of the individual pay would stay at the $316,800 level for 5 years. While we'd be losing the tax revenue, we would be encouraging the redevelopment of the historic building in town, as well as getting the additional tax revenue in the future. We do have to hold a public hearing on this resolution at the next meeting before adopted by the council. I did provide the council with impact for what the impact would be for 5 years. On my unwritten report, this can go into this next bill that's going to be coming up. It's called Senate Bill 22. This is going to be expanded from not only historical buildings, but you could do it for new construction as well. But that would be 50% of the total project for an amount of up to 5 years as currently written. Hasn't come into law. It's been approved by the House and the Senate, but it is a tool that would be used for economic development. The town of Exeter has been advocating for that. We're in a better position than Exeter because our form of government allows us to adopt the ordinance as soon as it becomes law, whereas the town of Exeter has to wait till March. So I'm continuing to watch that as well as our economic development consultants are watching that bill. Another item on our unwritten report, as you probably noticed around Town Hall, we have replaced begun replacing the lighting fixtures here with LED lighting, as well as been revamping the HVAC system. Right now, I believe it's the town administrator's suite has been completed. Planning will be completed shortly. I don't know if they've gotten to here yet for the HVAC. This is all through the energy efficiency contracting that we discussed. So all the funds are coming back. They're going to be paid by savings that we have. So it should be a significant amount. And I can tell you that the HVAC is working much better already. And that's all I have tonight, Madam Chair.
I just have one quick question for the town administrator. Talking about the 79E application, town council could add 4 more years if the housing units are affordable. How do we determine affordable? Is there a specific metric that we use? Is there a...
State law.
Okay,
And I don't know if off the top of my head.
no problem.
Yeah.
I have a question about SB 22.
Sure.
You said it passed the House and the Senate. Is it expected to be signed?
It is, I talked to one of the lobbyists at the New Hampshire Municipal Association that it's not really, not big on the radar for everybody. It was a bill that was already passed, but previously the law stated it had to be uniformly done in the town. So any new development had to get the same break, which wouldn't help. But now they did it. It can be determined on a case-by-case basis by the town council. So if there was a significant development that the town wanted, we could prove to the council that was significant for the community, the council could then waive the request for on a case-by-case basis.
Any other questions for the town administrator? Okay, then moving on, committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
I have just a quick one, I promise. The budget committee met last Monday, I believe. No, on the 20th. We selected our CIP rep, Kristen Matthews, who will be going to those meetings. And then we won't be meeting July or August. Nope, sorry, June or July, and we will meet again on August 26th at this point, unless anything big happens. So, fairly easy.
And I'll mention a couple quick ones. The Conservation Commission is holding an ongoing photography contest, which will run all the way from now until October, of pictures of conservation lands, and those the selected few will be displayed at the Stone Church starting in October. And the only other thing that came up, and in July, the Conservation Commission will be hosting an outing to some of our sites, could be on a Saturday, with more details to follow shortly.
Great. The Energy and Environment Committee met last night, actually, and a few things came up. So we had started, I mentioned at our last meeting that we met with DPW Director Mulaski regarding the current weed control program. So we did a review of that. We also had 2 weeks ago now a demonstration from Allied Machines, I think it's called, and they demonstrated a steam machine that they use. That's they just started in Dover, and so she came down and showed us the machine, which was really interesting, and it's something that the committee is planning, because I mean Dover purchased one, and so they're going to be using it for the first year and the first growing season. So it'll be interesting to sort of see what their success rate is, and if they find that it's worth the cost. It's not an inexpensive machine, but it does have some other uses. So we did have that demonstration, and so we'll be monitoring that, like I said, through Dover. And then we also discussed our committee goals. And some of those include EV charging stations, developing a carbon inventory so that we have a sense of any progress that we do make as a committee. So getting those numbers together. Reducing single-use plastics, again, like we'll get some metrics together. to start so that we have a sense of what progress we're able to make in that. Promoting solar, promoting some education in different areas. And then there was one other thing that I wanted to mention to you, Councillor Finch in particular, is one of the committee members works for Great Bay National Estuarine Reserve. And her, basically her job is living shoreline development. And so she could be a really great resource for Shanda Park. We had a long talk about it. And that's what they do. So, and restoring shoreline in a more natural setting, not using the traditional ways that they've maintained shoreline in the past. So I'll get that information to you.
Yeah, contact info would be great.
Yeah.
And I can reach out.
And that's all I have. So the next item on our agenda, there weren't any other committee reports. So the next item on our agenda is resolutions in the second reading. And the first thing is ordinance number 2, 2018-2019, amending chapter 26, permitting the sale of alcoholic liquor or beverages on town-owned sidewalks. So I'll take a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2, 2018-2019, amending the chapter 26, permitting the sale of alcoholic liquor or beverages on town-owned sidewalks.
Second.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received a request to review the permission to permit restaurants to serve liquor and beer on town-owned sidewalks. It's a common thing in larger communities such as Portsmouth and Dover to allow during the summertime people to have alcoholic beverages while having a meal outside. This ordinance that we have is a duplicate of the one the city of Dover has passed already, which would allow as I said, would allow the alcohol to be served on public sidewalks as long as it's in a clearly defined area and also in compliance with the state liquor commission, who they actually have to get permission to do so. It's actually called serving in another area license. Liquor rule 406.05, which is authorization for other area licensing criteria, says that holders of any on-sale licenses other than a vessel, dining car, or rail car licenses may extend service of beverage and liquor to clearly defined areas as provided. The service is to extended room on the contiguous premises as defined by RSA 175, patio areas which are clearly defined, swimming pools with clearly defined, or other clearly defined areas which the licensee may designate for alcoholic beverage service. They have to petition the writing to the Liquor Commission for approval, and they have received permission pursuant to Liquor Rule 205.10, the Commission in writing, so they have to get permission from the state. The clearly defined area for the purpose of the rule has to be constructed as to place a physical barrier indicated to patrons exactly which locations are authorized for the service of alcoholic beverages. The physical barriers shall be ropes, shrubbery, which is tall enough to be a physical barrier so as to be construed to be a fence, fences, railings, gazebos, tents with sidewalls, tents or gazebos with a physical barrier set around them, or other similarly clearly defined area. The holder of a liquor license may extend the service of beverage or liquor outside a cafe-style area, provided they meet the following criteria. The area is contiguous, as I mentioned, with the premises. The area proposed for service of the beverages has been approved by the appropriate agency of the town or city that it is located in, or the town or city supplies the licensee a letter indicating they have no objection to the proposed cafe-style area. They have petitioned the pursuant to 205.1 in writing to the Commission for approval of alcoholic beverages service in these areas, and then they receive the permission. The town only grants the permission of using its sidewalk. We do not grant the permission of what the area looks like. That is in the purview of the state for the liquor commission, because they have to make sure it complies with their law. Since we are the owner of the sidewalks, we provide that permission. The code enforcement officer would be the one to make sure that the tables and chairs are placed in the right area on our property. However, it has to comply with what the state liquor commission allows. So they're the ones who come in and actually regulate it as soon as the application is made. So that's what the ordinance is, just giving the permission that they can do so.
Can you explain again the responsibilities of our code, the town's code enforcement officer versus, you just said the state also
It's
enforces?
basically to make sure, because since we're the owner,
Yes,
they have to go down and make sure that the code, it's up to code.
okay,
Not that the distance between the facility and the tables, those kind of items, that's the liquor commission's purview. Much like anything else with the sale of liquor in state, they regulate those kind of items. We do not, since we don't have a liquor commission. We don't have the right to. Police would be checking other things such as, sometimes underage, if there were noise, if they go there and they see somebody driving by that's, they're not eating a meal, because it has to be with a meal. It can't be just sitting outside drinking. They can enforce to say, hey, they have to move along.
or if a patron steps outside
Correct.
of the area.
Then that's consumption of alcohol on public property.
But it's not the responsibility of the licensee to do any of that.
Yes, it always is, because they can also receive a fine.
They have to basically inform their patrons of the rules? Is that what you're saying? I'm kind of...
If you eat outside at a restaurant in Portsmouth or Dover and you leave the area,
Yeah,
then you get fined. Odds are the waiter or waitress will come over and say, "Excuse me, get back in here. You're not allowed to."
okay, okay.
And it's up to the individual. They're not going to read the law every time they sit down for a meal.
Right, right.
So, but it's the common. Yeah.
It seems common sense,
Yeah.
but we know
It didn't
how
go that
far
far.
that gets
I
you.
know.
I've
So-
seen a lot of restaurants put little signs up that say no alcohol allowed
Right.
beyond this point,
Mm-hmm.
and it's facing towards the patron, so they're informed that, hey, you can't take your liquor out of the golf club or out of this restaurant. It must be consumed inside.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something similar to the wine tastings I've been going to, very clearly noted on all points of egress where that line ends.
Okay.
I believe it's technically required too that the bartenders are, in observance of all the patrons at all times, to some degree.
Mhm.
Because you're technically not supposed to bring alcohol into the bathroom or into many designated places in a restaurant.
So they're already
So,
doing that.
they're supposed to be keeping track.
And is the town going to charge for the permit? Because that's not
As of now.
okay.
May I ask
Go
a
ahead.
question?
Sure.
And I apologize, if you stated this, but, I know that it says not to obstruct the free passage of pedestrians. Is there like a, it has to be X amount of feet of walking space on the sidewalk or anything like that, do you know?
I know we have to have a certain clear passage. I don't know it off the top of my head. It's what the code enforcement enforces for anything such as signs, tables that are
Right.
currently out there. Basically, what the difference between now is that the tables out there would now be enclosed, so it's a designated alcohol serving area.
The building inspector told me, last week that it's 4 feet from the curb. I think it was 32 inches initially, and then they changed it to 4 feet per the request of some person who walks a lot. So I think that would still be the same rule as in terms of
Okay.
where the tables are. It's 4 feet from the curb.
Okay, thank you.
And is that something that we want to specify in the ordinance, or,
It's already in other parts of the ordinance,
okay,
so
is this in the state law?
it's actually in our own ordinances and it's in state law, because we have to make sure we have the right of. That's why it's part of like the signs and any disturbances on the sidewalk.
That's not gonna leave a whole lot of space for a table in
That's-
most of the
and that's the
downtown.
point.
You're gonna have a very tiny little table there.
Then that's the point. It's not going to be everywhere, and so they're going to have to be able to comply with our ordinances as well as state law. So.
Well, I would think, we have obviously some wider sidewalks, and, I mean, like, so, not to single out any business, but currently the Oak House has tables outside, they just can't serve alcohol.
Exactly.
So just to use that as an example, so what would have to happen now, just so I have a clear picture, what would have to happen now is that they would still have those tables, and they would have to have some sort of fencing
Right, correct.
around that area.
Like imagine a velvet rope or one of those black, you know.
Right, so some sort of fencing around that area that would contain it. Would it need, and I know some towns go to extremes
Correct.
with this information, but, so would it need to be permanent?
No.
Not permanent, but, that's not the right word, but
A lot of-
stable?
Yes, but a lot of them you have to bring it in at night,
Okay,
so it's usually not permanent.
okay. Okay. And just another question, as it is right now, do you feel that it's enforceable and
Yes. Yeah. I think it'd be very little difference between what you see out there now. It's just a roped off area for those who can comply. And the other thing you remember is that we're bringing the State Liquor Commission in, so they will deny it if like they had issues at the facility. If the police don't approve it because there are issues from the facility, they're very strict, and they do ask the community what's going on.
So, I would like to make sure I'm anticipating properly the areas in town that we're talking about. Obviously, Main Street, right?
That's pretty much it.
Is there any other place? I don't know if other places have just by default,
Yeah, no, it's just Main Street.
or
Because you have to
they
have a
haven't
liquor license already, so
Right.
there's
But-
only something-
but-
We're just doing one at a
Sorry.
time.
Yeah.
But would they apply, given that this is sort of an added feature that they could, maybe would be attractive to people in other locations, would that give them more incentive for other locations in town, or probably not?
I don't see a place in town that could have it except Main Street downtown. There's no restaurants outside of that area.
I don't know all the zoning, so I'm just anticipating.
I don't know if this helps answer your question, but for instance, Panzanella's
Mhm.
has outside seating,
Mhm.
and I believe that they can serve alcohol there. Kume does too, but it's private property, so they already have that. The
Right,
joinery
it's like the
also-
joinery.
Right.
Yeah.
So other places may fall into that. The Stone Church is another example.
Yep.
So they can do that because they're on private property. So this is allowing the same thing just on town
On
property.
town property.
So I don't know where else that would, if there are any other establishments that would
Okay.
in town, right?
I just wanted to think that through, in case there's a risk, that it would be in an area where we really wouldn't want it. I think it's generally good.
Then we
you
have
know.
the right to
Right.
deny that.
Okay,
As part of the application process, we have to approve it.
okay.
So if we say, look, it's not conducive to the area.
It's next to the school or something,
Yeah. Yeah, or say if it was a situation where, look, you've had a lot of complaints there, we're not gonna provide you with that, we can't recommend that you receive that.
So we can control that without having to rescind the whole ordinance.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
John, did you have another comment?
No.
No, okay. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, I will say one thing. I'm going to abstain from this vote as I do have a restaurant that has a liquor license.
Just so we know kind of maybe the background, I mean, I assume we've had some requests or interests from businesses.
Correct.
So we'd anticipate they'd probably act on it fairly soon. They'd like to, or,
Yeah, then it takes 14 days, we have to publish it, and then 14 days after that, they can begin applying.
okay.
We'll review it, then they have to go to the state.
Uh-huh.
They have to get actually approved by the commission, which is a board of 3 individuals who meet monthly. So I don't see it happening maybe this. I mean, I don't know how fast the commission will be actually meeting.
If they want to, can they do this in the winter, any time of year?
It'll be cold, but yes.
Hey, That might be inventive.
And the plows will be coming through and.
Yeah, okay.
Ice festival.
It'd be an adventure.
Yeah. The Councilor Dumont has.
Oh, sorry.
Steve kind of just piqued an interest in my mind. It's a town sidewalk.
Mhm.
Do you envision any sort of right-of-way issues or anything where the property owner's set up for the afternoon doing their thing and the town needs to come through and, for whatever reason? Do you envision that potentially, any potential issues that could
Any
come up?
situation like that, we have the right of way. It's our property. We're granting them permission to be on there. We just tell them to move.
All right.
How does this, I'm sorry, I have questions.
Yeah.
If we had festivals, would they be able to, if they were able to serve liquor, would that, I mean, where does that fall?
No.
Okay.
Do you have to have an off-site liquor? It's up, I'm not up to all the liquor laws in the state of
Okay.
New Hampshire, but only restaurants, we're only saying restaurants can do this.
Only where they're,
If somebody else is, say, for example, in which we do give permission, we have the authority to give permission to have alcohol in parks. Softball leagues want alcohol in parks. I
Okay.
give permission to do so because it's our property. This is different because this has to be that means an individual is allowed to bring their own
restaurant.
private alcohol into the park. This is allowing an individual to sell it on town property.
Okay.
Which is a different, and since it's on a, you have to get liquor license, you have to do a whole different certain thing when it comes to that. If it was like in a park, you may have to get a catering license and a bunch of different things, but this is just to do it
so,
next to
Okay.
a building that already serves liquor.
so there's like Taste of, where the restaurants are actually the ones who are participating in the festival, but they set up in a booth away
That's-
from their
that's a
restaurant.
different
Okay.
license.
Alrighty,
That's completely different. This has to be served with a meal.
okay.
Councilor Burns, before we call a roll, any final thoughts? I'm gonna guess no. All right.
Okay. Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Abstain.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to 1.
Sorry. Next on the agenda is Resolution 2018-2019-39, paving improvements. I take a motion to accept that.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2018-2019-39 paving improvement.
Second.
I think that's you, Rick.
We're under contract with Balance until the end of the month, and we're looking to extend that contract with the option that we had. There's no increase, so that's a good thing. We're following the plan, and we're looking to just update. We were a little behind in that, and that's why the request is in there to take some of the funds from the transportation fund, and that'll catch us up with our current plan for the road paving program. The only thing we're not gonna do this year is Bay Road, because we're gonna do that big box culvert. So, and that's not in such a bad shape, we'll push that off one year, but everything else caught up and brought up to snuff, and, you can see all the roads, we're gonna get quite a bit done. A lot of it's kinda in-town areas, but, we're geared up to start work in July, once the new budget starts.
Just a quick question, if you don't mind. It seems somewhat miraculous that the price is not going up for us. Does that typically happen, or is it just good conditions?
No, it's really unusual for us, but it's a good thing. Our bids came in a little late last year, that's why all the increases happened early. So we were kinda already hit with it last year, so, but it is unusual.
It just didn't seem like, especially with that type of material, that we would see no change whatsoever. I'm really happy with it.
I know I'm excited that we are on target with the plan, and I think it's great. So, great job. Thank you.
And we'll be looking to update that plan too. We're gonna be working with UNH to update that plan, because we're getting near the end of that cycle in it.
How, is it 4 years?
It was, I believe it was 6, wasn't it,
Yeah.
Steve? I think it was 6.
Right.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to read them?
I can. Well, first we have to do
nomination.
nominations. So the next on the agenda is to consider nominations, and we have a nomination for the Newmarket Housing Authority Commission, and that's an appointment, John Reddy, with a term to expire in March 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve John Reddy for the Housing Authority Commission, with a term expiration date of March 2024 is what I see written here.
Second.
Go call the roll, please.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
He's not here, but thanks to him for reapplying to continue.
All right. Sorry. So we have a number of resolutions in the first reading, and the first is Resolution 2019-40, swing installation and playground improvements. Whereas the Recreation Department playground is in need of upgrades to comply with the U.S. Consumers Playground Safety Guidelines, and whereas a request for proposals was published with one respondent, Dan Parks Fence and Landscaping of Kingston, New Hampshire, providing a response, with the original proposal coming in over the anticipated budget, and the Director of Facilities negotiated the project to an acceptable scope and cost for service, and now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that authorizes the town administrator to enter into an agreement with Dan Parks Fence and Landscaping of Kingston, New Hampshire for swing set installation and playground upgrades in the amount of $21,000, utilizing Recreation Department capital reserve funds. The next resolution, if I just talk slow, then I can get it up, is Resolution 2018-2019-41, purchase of a 2020 Ford Interceptor SUV for the police department to include costs associated with outfitting the vehicle for emergency services. Whereas the police department seeks to replace the current 2005 Ford Crown Victoria with a new Ford Interceptor SUV at the state bid price of $33,779, and whereas the department's request includes the costs associated with outfitting the vehicle with a police radio, emergency lighting, and safety equipment necessary for police services, as well as costs associated with lettering the vehicle, and whereas the police department capital reserve account for police cruiser replacement currently has a balance of $217,684, whereas the total cost for the vehicle and related equipment to include lettering is estimated not to exceed $58,003.20. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Newmarket Town Council does hereby approve the withdrawal of funds not to exceed $58,003.20 from the Police Department Capital Reserve Account for police cruiser replacement for the purposes of purchasing and equipping a new Ford Interceptor SUV for the town, and to authorize the town administrator to execute any associated agreements. Next one, Resolution 2018-2019-42. I thought I was having deja vu. Purchase of a 2020 Ford Interceptor SUV for the police department. Is it the same one? No, okay. To include costs associated with replacement and or transferal of emergency lighting and equipment setup. Whereas the police department seeks to replace the current 2014 Ford Interceptor SUV with 120,000 miles on it with a new Ford Interceptor SUV at the state bid price of $33,779. And whereas the department's request includes the costs associated with the transferal and or replacement of a police radio, emergency lighting, and safety equipment necessary for police services, as well as costs associated with lettering the vehicle. And whereas the department's police detail revolving account currently has a balance of $110,702.81, whereas the total cost for the vehicle and related equipment to include lettering is estimated not to exceed $43,416. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Newmarket Town Council does hereby approve the withdrawal of funds not to exceed $43,416 from the police detail revolving account for the purposes of purchasing and equipping a new Ford Interceptor SUV for the town, and to authorize the town administrator to execute any associated agreements. All right, this one's definitely different. This is Resolution 2018-2019-43, Water Meter Software Upgrade. Whereas the Water Department has the Badger water meters and meter reading software equipment, whereas Badger Meter is upgrading its software and equipment, whereas Badger Meter will no longer support the old software and equipment, whereas the Water Department needs the software and equipment to read the water meters and to bill its customers. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Town Council does hereby approve the withdrawal of $34,850 from the Water Department Capital Reserve Fund to upgrade the Badger Meter software and equipment. First reading June 5th, 2019. It's going to be a long night at our next meeting, I think. So our next resolution is Resolution 2018-2019-44, approving the Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive, RSA 79E, for the redevelopment of the Selectwood Building. Whereas the Cheney Companies of 76 Exeter Road, Newmarket, New Hampshire, has submitted an application for the Community Development Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive for the Selectwood Building in the Mill area, and whereas the developer is proposing $1.69 million of construction improvements to said building, and whereas this is over the threshold of 15% of the pre-rehabilitation assessed value of $75,000, whichever is less, and whereas I think that should be, or $75,000, whichever is less. And whereas the improvements equal more than 50% of the current assessed value, allowing 5 years of tax relief according to town policy. And whereas the town council determines that this project qualifies for the incentive under RSA 79E, the project is substantial, and there is a public benefit from this project. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council does hereby approve Cheney Companies of 76 Exeter Road, Newmarket, New Hampshire, RSA 79E Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive Application in accordance with the previously adopted criteria, and authorizes the town administrator to execute any associated agreements. First reading June 5th, 2019. And we have one more, and that is Resolution 2018-2019-45, Town of Newmarket New Singular Wireless Option and Lease Purchase Agreement. Whereas the Newmarket Town Council wishes to enter into an option and lease agreement with New Singular Wireless, whereby the town will provide an option to New Singular to lease a small portion, approximately 10,000 square feet, plus an access for vehicles and utilities of the town's 10-acre 4 Youngs Lane property at tax map U3, lots 48, for cell tower and related facilities use purposes. The leased area is located at the top of the hill up behind the fire station. And whereas New Singular will provide tenant space to the town on the tower and within the site for the town's public safety communications equipment and facilities at no cost to the town. And whereas the lease will be for an initial term of 5 years and will have 4 automatic extension terms of 5 years each, with an option payment and lease payments, including rental increases per term, to be paid by New Singular to the town per the terms of the lease. And whereas the Newmarket Planning Board approved the site plan for the subject New Singular wireless project at 4 Youngs Lane at its May 14th, 2019 meeting. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 41:11A, the Town Council approves the option and lease agreement with New Singular Wireless for a cell tower and related facilities and site improvements at the town's 4 Youngs Lane property. First reading June 5th, 2019. Lot.
Yes.
So,
Well, sounds great.
is there any correspondence to the town council?
There was none.
And any closing comments by town councilors?
Just a quick one. While we were doing the reading of the resolutions, and then also kind of reflecting back to the bidding process that we had with the McAllen Dam, it seemed surprising to me that there was only one bid that came in for the playground structure equipment. Steve, do you think that that is still in line with what we heard from other developers and construction companies with the dam, that it's just not really high-value projects at this time that folks want to focus on? Do you think that potentially we might have issues with other construction projects moving forward as we, are in this construction boom?
I think it's any time there's a good economy, municipalities are not the first ones on the list for construction companies. That's, but most companies are lined up, most of their summer jobs by now. But our process, we can't react that quickly. However, once the economy goes down again, which it always does, we will be beneficial because that's when they tend to all come in.
Appreciate it. I don't have much experience with this,
Yeah.
so I'm always just kind of curious when we only get one or maybe no bids.
Yep.
But thank you.
We had a held item, just a reminder.
Yeah.
I just want to say I had the opportunity to attend the Community Development Block Grant workshop today in Concord, and it was pretty informative. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities there, and the people that were putting it on were really, just kept saying, contact us before at the beginning of any project. If we can't help you, at least we can put you towards people that can help you get funding. And it was really informative. It was kind of interesting. There were some people there from another town who were looking to get some funding for, I think it was a library. And in the middle of the presentation, the presenters told us that you can't hire a contractor or you're not eligible for the block grants. And they had already hired a contractor, so they left. So it was just really informative because I think there's a ton of places that you could use it, the block grants around town. I mean, not just the town, but the other nonprofits. So I thought it was really informative, and there's a lot of information on the CDFA website, if anyone's interested.
Yes.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to the police department. I got a chance to tour the facilities at the beginning of the month, and it was just kind of great to see how well run our police department is, and just the care that's kept in everything that goes there, from the vehicles to the building. So just appreciate the chance to tour it, and it is open to the public if anybody's interested in learning more about our PD.
Tours are open to the public.
Tours. Yep.
Hopefully you get a tour of your own free will.
Do you want to talk about the next meeting date, or?
Yeah, and I just wanted to also comment on the Memorial Day Parade, and we had a great night. It was, it's just a really great event. I've gone for the past several years, and it's gotten, I think, bigger over the years. It was really well attended, so big thank you to the VFW for, or to, sorry, not the VFW, to the Legion for organizing that whole event, and the scouts and the student athletes who participated, the band. It was a great event. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them, not the VFW, the American Legion. And the dates. Oh yeah, look at that. So we have 2 upcoming dates, and the town administrator had mentioned next week is our goal setting session. It's at 6 o'clock. It will be downstairs. Is that correct? And then our next meeting, our next regular scheduled meeting, is June 26th, which is different than our typical schedule. So I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware of that. And that will be at 7 o'clock, our regular scheduled time, but we will have a non-public session prior to that.
I don't know if I
And-
missed it, but what was the July meeting?
That is.
Do we have a date for that?
We did. You have it handy. We're skipping the first week, and then it's the regular
So
schedule after that. Is that
17th then?
17th.
17th, okay, thank you.
Right. So there is not one on the 3rd.
Correct.
It's updated on the website.
Yeah.
FYI, I'm looking at
Okay.
it.
The one on the 26th would be.
And for August as well.
right? And for August, just the 21st.
And we are good for quorum on the 26th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we think we are.
Okay.
And then we need to enter non-public.
Yep.
Do we need a motion?
Yep. The same way as before.
Okay.
As per personnel.
I'll make the motion to enter into non-public.
Second.
Council Finch.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Cast.
Aye.
Council Burns.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Hold on, I gotta make sure we're off the air first.